In our dreams, people yield themselves with perfect docility to our molding hands. The present education conventions of intellectual and character education fade from their minds, and unhampered by tradition, we work our own goodwill upon a grateful and responsive folk. We shall not try to make these people, or any of their children, into philosophers or men of science. We have not to raise up them as authors, educators, poets, or men of letters. We shall not search for great artists, painters, musicians, nor lawyers, doctors, preachers, politicians, statesmen, all of whom we have ample supply of. The task is simple. We will organize the children and teach them in a perfect way the things their fathers and mothers are doing in an imperfect way. John D. Rockefeller. The aim of public education is not to fill the young of the species with knowledge and awaken their intelligence. Nothing could be further from the truth. The aim is simply to reduce as many individuals as possible to the same safe level, to breed and train standardized citizenry, to put down dissidence and originality. That is the aim of the United States. H. L. Mencken. Education should aim at destroying free will, so that after pupils left school, they shall be incapable throughout the rest of their lives of thinking and acting otherwise than their schoolmasters would have wished. Bertrand Russell. The most brilliant propagandist technique will yield no success unless one fundamental principle is born in the mind constantly. You must confine itself to a few points and repeat it to them over and over again. Joseph Goebbels. All children start out naturally curious and love to learn. When they are sent to school, instead of learning, it is a repeated process of memorizing and regurgitating information. The better you are at regurgitating this information, the better you will do in the school system. The real education is obeying authority. We are taught to ask permission. We are taught not to think outside the box. We are taught multiculturalism, drug, sex, and death education. We are taught to memorize, regurgitate information, an input-output process not unlike a computer or a slave. We are taught to respond to a bell, just like a factory floor. We are taught to keep our head down and just make it through the day. We are taught to lower our expectations. Our media is normalizing narcissistic behavior. We are not taught to develop critical thinking. We are not taught about debt-based money and the principles that our founding fathers fought for. We are not taught to cooperate and view each other as a team with individual talents and gifts. We are not taught to question authority or even the facts demanded of us. We are indoctrinated, not educated. Indoctrinated like little slaves. The secret of American schooling is that it does not teach the way children learn, nor is it supposed to. Schools were conceived to serve the economy and the social order rather than the kids and the families. That is why it's compulsory. As a consequence, the school cannot help anybody grow up, because its prime directive is to retard maturity.
Many of you might have remembered the Rameke family. That's the German family who came here and got asylum in the United States because they were fleeing the German homeschooling laws. You see, in Germany, they still have the anti-homeschooling laws that Adolf Hitler wrote. Adolf Hitler wrote the first laws to criminalize education, especially for parents to educate their own children.
We need to nationalize their mentality. We need to break the individuality and the sovereignty of those individuals. We need to make them submit. Through force, fraud, and coercion, compulsory schooling was the model that they made successful, and it later resulted in the Nazis.
So this family immigrated to the United States. They sought asylum. They were granted asylum by an immigration judge, and everything seemed to be okay. They said they were fleeing religious persecution. They were homeschooling for religious reasons. And then Eric Holder got involved, and Eric Holder tried to overturn that immigration judge's asylum order. And they set up some very troubling precedents in that. Eric Holder said he didn't think denying people's right to homeschool their kids on religious grounds, he didn't think that was a denial of religious freedoms. Of course, they don't respect any of the First Amendment, either freedom of religion or freedom of speech. And you know what? You can't have either of those if you don't have freedom of education.
The criminal elite know that if they take away the meaning of words, it incapacitates our thought. If you cannot think, you cannot figure things out. If you cannot figure things out, you will never see that you're a slave. If you cannot see that you're a slave, you'll never rebel. If you cannot rebel, you'll never be free. And if you cannot be free, you'll never fulfill your purpose on earth to be your highest and best self. Until they become conscious, they will never rebel. And until after they have rebelled, they cannot become conscious. George Orwell.